1. I live in a building that has indoor garage parking. The building also has very, very wide sidewalks. The area right outside the entrance to the garage also has a very, very wide sidewalk and a bus stop. Since parking is the worst in my city, people do tend to pull up on the sidewalk for a short while to unload the car or maybe run upstairs for whatever reason. One guy definitely parks his car in the area right next to the garage entrance for our building. The scene. I'm getting back from doing groceries and I have a lot to unload. Instead of going all the way into the garage and then unloading and walking all the way back out and around, I figured let me leave the car on the sidewalk for a moment and bring everything up. I'm going to go back out anyway, so I'll be moving the car. As I'm unloading the car, someone pulls up in the street and says something through his open window.
Hey, that's my spot.
I'm sorry, what?
It's my spot. Everyone knows that's my spot.
I'm sorry, I didn't know this was a spot. Didn't see a number on it.
Yeah, but it's my spot.
I'm still trying to unload my bags. Sorry, dude, didn't know this spot in the sidewalk was part of the garage.
It doesn't matter, that's my spot,
he says as he proceeds to exit his vehicle. You pay $325 to park on the sidewalk?
Doesn't matter if I pay or not. Everyone in this building knows that's my spot. I have an understanding with the super.
Well, I'm new to this building and I wasn't aware of this particular rule. What would you like me to do? Move my car?
I would like you to know that's my spot.
Okay, thank you for telling me. Would you like me to move my car from your spot?
I have NYPD plaques that allow me to park here.
Knowing I have family with an NYPD badge and actual FDNY plaques, but would never use them to park on the sidewalk. Okay, man. Do you want me to move my car for you? Or can I stay if I have a plaque as well?
Oh, you have a plaque? Because I can look it up. What are you? Who are you? You know what? It's okay. Stay here. Have the spot. Just watch. Please leave your car there.
Now I'm frustrated that I'm still carrying all these bags and the guy is standing directly in front of me. Okay, whatever you say.
Why are you staring at me like that, bro?
I'm not staring, just waiting for you to be done so I can go.
Whatever. Keep the spot. Watch.
So I go upstairs and he drives off. I'm now not going to move my car. I also will not use any plaque in my car, just want to ride it out. I'm not worried about him damaging the car, there are cameras on the sidewalk. I come back and check in my car in the morning and lo and behold, there's a $115 ticket on my car for parking on the sidewalk. Cool beans, half expected. Now to figure out what to do. I see him in the elevator a day later. He's with his significant other, so I assume he was a little less hostile. Hey man, coming in, holding the elevator doors.
Yeah, so did you get a ticket?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
You left your car out there for the night. Did you get a ticket? You did, didn't you?
Not sure. My wife took the car, I'll ask when I see her.
Yeah, man, I was trying to tell you that if you didn't have a plaque, you'll get a ticket.
It seemed like you were trying to tell me to get out of your spot.
No, Matt, look, we got off on the wrong foot. My name is Dick.
Not his real name. Cool, my name is me.
Don't go getting any more tickets now.
I nod my head and walk out of the elevator. The ticket is handwritten, so that means it wasn't a traffic cop. It was an officer who he had to call to come over and issue the ticket. Fine, you have connections. I have them too. Now, my family members aren't going to do something as wild as that, so I ask what are the alternatives. One solution is to report the car for parking on the sidewalk and using PBA cards for illegal parking. PBA cards are used for friends and family when getting stopped by police as a, hey, it was a mistake. I know someone in the force, they can vouch for me that I don't normally do that, please don't give me a ticket out. The plaque he claimed to have was a PBA card. So I begin my plan. Every night I take a picture of the car and report it to 311 with the PBA card he puts on his dashboard. This way, not only does he get in trouble, but whoever gave him that PBA card has to answer to someone as well. I do this for about 2 weeks. I got an update on my phone saying, "Your request has been responded to." I finally see a ticket on his car. Next night, car is not there. 2 whole weeks pass and I do not see his car. I was going to move my car, but because you came out so hostile, now you will never park there again. 2. For this story, we will call my worker Veg. But to put it short, he is lazy and does the bare minimum work. I usually have to do all the things that he does not finish, and he mostly just does not respond to my texts and comments. I picked it up with my boss several times, and to put it short, Veg is leaving our firm in 2 weeks, but a few weeks back, when he was still with us, doing nothing to earn his keep, I had a chance to mess with him. We both work as managers on changing shifts, so I am there when he is not and vice versa. One time when I came to work, he left me a note that somebody from another department will come by our shop and leave a bottle of wine for Veg, and that I just needed to leave that bottle of wine for him at work. I just rolled my eyes and was going to just let it play out, but like many other days, he left so much work for me. Even in our shared notes system where he left the message about the wine, he left my comments unread and unfinished. After all, my work routine when things got slow was to talk to my coworkers, and they shared a lovely detail about that whole situation. To put it simply, Veg was on the phone with another department and sorting some stuff out with them. There was no urgency or some problem that he fixed. That usually fell on my lap. Out of nowhere, he said on the phone something along the lines of, "Hey, after my hard work, are you not forgetting something?" "Yeah, great, I will be waiting." Sure, there might be some misinformation, but knowing Veg and knowing how they operate, I can only see it one way. He basically asked them for a gift. A gift for work he never does. It's not like they would reward him for doing a good job. It's more like him asking for something that he did not deserve, and they just did not say no. After hearing this, I was still a bit amused by it, and not thinking much about it. It became like an office meme, and everybody was asking for some wine as a reward. The guy with the wine showed up about a week later. You could see that when he was asking if Veg was there to receive it, he was clearly pissed off. When I said he's not there, he got even more angry. I said that I could deliver it to him, no problem, so he left it with me and I just put it in our joint office that only 2 of us share with Veg. But during the day, I started to think about some prank. Taking it for myself felt off. Firstly, I do not even drink, and secondly, that would just be pointless and rude of me. So I decided to hide it somewhere. I'm not stealing, and I'm not even breaking the note he left me. He wanted me to leave it for him at work, so I did. 2 final notes before the end. Veg brags about how much money he makes off his other activities outside of work. But we all know he's lying, and we all know how much he wanted that wine. He saw it as a prize, spoils of war, and a second thing, he does badly at all of his tasks. Emails, orders, notes. But one thing he does the worst is keeping the shop clean and the office too. So you can guess where I hid the wine. At the back of a cabinet where we keep our cleaning supplies. I told the shift of people that will come in with him the next day to work. I showed them where I hid it and told them to tell him, since he would not read my notes, that I would leave him. That if he does his work and cleans the place for my next shift, I will tell him the hiding place. You can probably guess how it ends. The wine is still there, for several weeks hidden and only serving as a reminder for me that at least sometimes I can do something to piss him off, as he does to me all the time, by being a horrible manager. I even told it to our boss. He laughed and said I did good and that he will take the wine after Veg leaves without it. Now that I think about it, I may want it in the end. Like I said, spoils of war. 3. Got this card shop I've been going to for probably a decade or so now. About 6 or 7 years ago, they were in this small plaza, just a bunch of storefronts next to each other off of a major road, with a shared tiny, like 20 spaces total, parking lot. A lot of people like to hang around the shop for hours, playing card games, board games, mini-games. We didn't buy things on the daily, but would drop serious money on stuff every so often. Not sure why it started, but the other stores, mainly the restaurants that were there, started complaining we were taking up their parking spaces, which was causing them a lot of customers. Then complained we were loitering since we didn't buy anything, even coming into the shop in person to complain. We rarely parked too far from the card storefront since we kept our stuff in our cars. Want to play Warhammer? Let me get my army from the car. Magic the Gathering. Need to grab my deck from the car. But the shops even started giving us tickets for loitering in the plaza, putting them onto our cars. The card shop owner, who I know well from many games and hanging around, responds with, "Okay, we can have loiterers," and made some changes to the shop. We have a game library, like a floor-to-ceiling of shelves of a wall in the back full of board games for people like kids to grab and play. Kind of grew over the years. To use the wall now, you need to pay $5, but with that, you also get $5 credit for the store, which included a newly installed mini-fridge full of $1 cans of pop and snacks like chocolate bars and crisps. We kept the receipts in our pockets or on the table next to us on the display when they came around to complain. The tickets were stopped after a while since the landlord heard about it and had a talking to the owners since he wasn't behind it. Also made it a point the parking lot was for the plaza, not any specific storefront. We kept the receipts on hand still, almost like an inside joke. Even newcomers did it after a while. Now, additional deliciousness. According to the store owner, the restaurants kept bugging him about things from something he threw in the dumpsters to parking his car in the back, basically trying to push him out because the customers weren't the right kind. Pretty sure more stereotyping than actual for reasons I'll get into. So when the lease was up, he was out, moved to another plaza about 10-minute ride away from the first location he had secured months before the lease ended. Here's the thing about this card shop. It was very family-friendly. We may get loud, but we never cursed, and just ushered people who got riled up outside for cooldown. We had kids playing games in the back often. I sometimes was DMing a game for them. Why did we have kids in the shop? Because the parents were doing what got them together in the front area, trying to drop each other's life points to 0. We have several families who came to the shop, all from many fields. You think a rule lawyer is tiring? Try to argue with a real lawyer about rules. When the shop moved, so did these customers. But not sure why those restaurants didn't know or notice. So did their most frequent customers. Many of us bought our meals from these restaurants due to convenience of it, and selection of foods was decent. Food itself wasn't that good, but this was more food deliveries like Uber Eats was a thing. Nowadays, when I drive by the plaza en route to the shop, I chuckle. They definitely don't need to worry about a full lot. Maybe quarter full nowadays. The old card shop location seemed to rotate between shops from vapes to taxis to health shop. Currently for lease. Other shops also moved away from the plaza. The restaurants, one is closed down, boarded up with no sign changed as of this week. The other 3 seem to have upped their gimmicks based on the windows full of deals. Food deliveries apps-wise, they're not liked, citing poor quality, time and/or gouged prices. 4. Many years ago, I worked at a gas station. It wasn't a big fancy station. No, it was a satellite of a grocery store. Nothing more than a tiny kiosk next to a dozen pumps. I have a lot of stories about that place, but only one is really appropriate. My coworkers ranged from cool to worthless. This story is about one of the worthless ones, Sandy. Sandy was fairly new to our kiosk, but not to the job, having transferred over from another gas station in the company. Right out of the gate, this was a problem. She had her way of doing things, and we had ours. Naturally, Sandy expected all of her new coworkers to change to suit her, not the other way around. One day it was me and Sandy on the afternoon shift. There were only ever 2 employees, only enough space for 2 people in that shack of a gas station. So we covered each other's backs. Normally, because I'm a team player, I would take my breaks in the little office in the back. If my coworkers needed me, all they had to do was yell. But on that particular Friday, Sandy and I had a problem. She decided to take both of her breaks at once. It wasn't uncommon for us to take a 45-minute break instead of a half and 15. But it was something we had to clear with our coworkers before doing. It was also against company policy, but we didn't really give a damn about that. An hour before rush hour, the busiest time of the day with the largest concentration of shitty customers, she wanted to take her break. That's fine, nothing wrong. I told her I would take my half hour after hers. Then we'd both run tills for the rush. Half an hour came and went. She didn't come back. Another half hour, during which I should have been on break, still not back. Another 15 minutes. She comes in and gets on till, no apologies for taking a long break unannounced, or for coming back late from that long break. When I mentioned it, she replied, "I don't know why you're getting so pissy. All you ever do is sit in the back. And I wouldn't get upset if you took a long break." So I told her, "I'll hold you to that." Then I walked out. I bought a paper, went down the street to Edo, sat down with a big bowl of noodles and veggies, and took my sweet time. All the 9-to-5ers on their way home from work were her problem. Exactly 45 minutes after I left, I made damn sure it was to the minute, I walked back into the kiosk. Sandy was not behind the till. My manager was. Apparently, Sandy couldn't handle the situation and started crying. I don't know if it was just me walking out, the workload, or any particular customer that got to her. My manager was called, drove into town, and took over until I came back. Tam wasn't angry with me. Not anymore, at least. She was pretty pissed when she showed up to relieve Sandy. Poor girl had to be sent home, and she found a brief window in which to check the security cameras. It turns out Sandy told her that she had taken her half-hour break earlier. Then I didn't bother taking mine until the rush because I didn't want to work. Tam decided to check that on the cameras, and by the time I came back, she already knew Sandy was lying to her. I didn't have to say a damn thing in my own defense. Sandy was punished for the long break and the lying, but was not fired. However, on the rare occasion we were scheduled together afterwards, she took her breaks when and for how long I told her to. Good times. 5. There are 3 types of university degrees in France. License L1, L2, L3 is an undergraduate degree awarded after a period of study lasting 6 semesters, that's 3 years. Master's M1, M2 is a graduate degree awarded after a period of study lasting 2 years, a total of 5 years study. A doctorate is awarded for a period of study lasting 16 semesters, 3 years, or a total of 8 years study. 'Twas like 6 or 7 years ago, the last year of L3 in a math informatics license. Second semester CS class, the usual BS. Supposedly, they teach you about programming, but mostly they teach you how to use Java. Great, except I already have a fair amount of experience on it. I might, spent a year or 3 coding Minecraft plugins in Java. We all were young once, so the class was about as useful to me as bicycles are to fishes. Besides, I don't actually care about the grade here. The only requirement for passing your L3 is having above 7 out of 20 in every class, which is fairly easy to achieve, as one might surmise, and I've already been accepted into my M1. Since they have to process applications halfway through the year. It's conditional on me passing, of course. But there's basically no way I managed to fail here. And even if I did, I'd be able to retake some exams later on to make up for my grades. So the only thing grades are good for is my average at the end of the year, but but who's ever going to look at my L3 grades after I've done an M2? No one, that's who. This entire second semester of L3 is useless as fuck. Still, I chose this class, mostly because I was lazy, so I guess I don't have any ground to complain. So I'll do my best to get a decent grade. Be nicer if we could have passed our exams on computers, you know, instead of writing Java on papers and being graded on that, but hey, I'll take my unfair advantages where I can. No autocomplete on function names is a much bigger issue for my classmates than for me here. Either way, this course is graded thusly. I think it's been a while, Sumi. 40% on the final exam, I'm expecting a 19 to 20 here. 20 on various homework, I have the best possible grade here. 40% on an end-of-the-year project. It's gonna be a group project? Ding ding ding, let's force a group project onto the class. It's always more fun that way. Thankfully, our teacher has a brilliant idea. Unironically, make the project a client-server single-player game with a strict API. An API dictates precisely what output you should return given a certain input. Example, if the server receives move left, the player should move to the east and return move OK unless there's a wall. In that case, it should return move ERR and the likes. It's actually genius, for 3 reasons. With a strict API, the teacher was able to automate testing for the project. Half our grade would be on the tests, he had like 60 of them, picked 20 randomly, worth 0.5 points each. The other half would be on a presentation with us explaining our code and him asking questions afterwards. The work distribution was already done for you unless you were really fucking dumb. You'd end up with one guy doing the server side, one doing the client side, and that was that. It wasn't really fair for the guys saddled with the server side, but it probably was here to teach us that life wasn't fair anyway. All of that meant, in theory, you could do the project in groups of 2 and literally never have to talk to your partner. As long as you properly followed the API definitions, any pair of client and server from any 2 people in the class should be able to work together seamlessly. Slight caveat. I've been in that class like once. The teacher doesn't care. He knows I've already got a lot of experience on Java, and he has PowerPoints that he puts up on the school website anyway. He could care less about me being physically present as long as my homework was done properly. He was A-OK with it. Still, this leaves me in an interesting position of knowing about 0 people from that class. Well, whatever. We're in even numbers, so sadly I can't do the whole project myself. So I'll end up with someone eventually. So no need to actively search for someone. I end up matched with the last guy without a teammate. Let's call him AFK. It might become clear why in just a bit. We divide up the work. I end up volunteering for the server-side part, which should be the most difficult one. The client basically only has to worry about display and its command line. Think 1,500 lines of code from the server side, 500 lines from the client. It's Java, so half of them are boilerplate code. But hey, still 3-1 in terms of difficulty. I code everything in a day, then email my work to AFK. There's like 3 months remaining before the end of the project, plenty of time for AFK to work on his part. 1 month later, no reply from AFK. Well, it's an end-of-year project, understandable. 2 months later, I sent him an email. I'd like to know where he's at with his part, just so I can check everything would pass the tests. 2 months and 3 weeks later, yet another email, no reply. See, as exams happen, they're easy. I finish an hour in advance and I wait and discuss with AFK, but I don't actually know what it looks like. Oops, whatever. He'll contact me at some point, surely. The presentation is in 4 days. Okay, I'll wait for him, I guess. 3 days left? 2 days left? Okay, well, honestly, I wouldn't have minded coding the entire project myself in the first place, but ghosting me for 3 months? Yeah, I'm somewhat unhappy about that. So I write the entirety of the client side as well. Though if anyone familiar with NetBeans, a popular Java IDE, it automatically produces comments whenever you create a package. One of them. To change this license header, choose License Headers in Project. To change this template file, choose Tools, Templates, and open the template in the editor. Package, Network Project Client. Author, Zeal, Public Class, Network Project Client. Indicates the author of the code. Bit unlucky for AFK that, because if the teacher ever inspects the code, he's gonna see I wrote everything. My fucking problem. I published my code on the website. Still, there's no reason to completely fuck the guy over, so I sent him an email. Hey, I did everything, but we should meet up so that I can actually explain to you how the code works. Which he doesn't reply to, for a day. Okay, well, your loss. Cue the day of the presentation. I'm here at 7 a.m. Our presentation starts at 9 a.m. I get an email from AFK. Hey, where are you? Can we discuss the project? Should I not? I'm just in front of room XYZ. Half an hour passes. 45 minutes pass. No AFK in sight. 8 a.m. The teacher arrives, asks me why I'm sitting on the ground with my computer open in front of his classroom. I'm waiting for AFK to discuss our project, I reply. He looks at me with a slightly puzzled gaze. He goes, and enters the classroom. At that point, I'm somewhat annoyed. I've given this guy every single chance possible here, and he's still gonna get a 10/20 just from the test part alone. An idea bubbles in the front of my mind, but would I really be as petty as to voluntarily lose 10 points just to fuck him over? Yeah, I would. So I rewrite every client and server communication to have or expect a underscore in front of it. Instead of sending move left, I send underscore move left. Instead of replying move OK, I reply underscore move OK. The project works just the same, but now every single test will fail miserably, because they'll receive underscore move OK when expecting just move OK. Then upload it onto our course's website. It's now 8:15 p.m., and AFK still isn't there. 8:45 a.m. he arrives, apologizes, and asks me if I could explain to him the program and what I did for the oral portion of the project. My eyes glance over an impressive-looking, yet absolutely unimportant line of code. Oh, yes I can. Don't worry, I'll talk about the project as much as possible during the presentation, but here's an important part. It reads, public class player, private static final atomic integer count equals new atomic integer 0. To put it simply, atomic integer is marginally important for concurrency. This project is dealing with asynchronous calls, so you might end up in situations where one of your functions is called twice in a very short amount of time. Each player has a distinct ID, so the player class has a count that increments by 1 each time a player asks for an ID, and it ensures no two players can have the same ID. It's about 1% of the project. It's not actually worth talking about at all. Really, or maybe just a passing mention that since the project is dealing with asynchronous calls, we have to take some precautions here and there, and then move on. I take 10 minutes to talk about it to AFK. 8:55 a.m. Let's wait for the teacher to get us. 9 a.m. The presentation starts. I demonstrate my code to the teacher, run the program, send commands, show that they indeed work correctly, while quickly going over the code and explaining what I've done here and there. This lasts for a good 15 minutes. The teacher notices every single class has my name as the author, and asks AFK, Alright, Zeal obviously did good work here, but what did you work on? Time seems to slow to a crawl. This is it. Is AFK going to? He couldn't possibly, could he? I've worked on the atomic integer part, he goes. The what now? Asks our teacher, puzzled. The atomic integer. It's here to prevent issues where two players have the same ID. AFK continues, butchering my explanation of asynchronous tasks in a server-client project. It goes on for a minute or so, before the teacher interrupts him. Okay, stop. I can clearly see you haven't written a single line of code on this project. And then AFK replies with something truly spectacular. Well, actually, what happened is that I worked on my part and he did the client side, but Zeal decided to rewrite everything himself and didn't use anything of what I had made. Which, whoa, ballsy. Is this true, Zeal? Asks the teacher. And here I have two choices. I could absolutely say no. I pretty much have proof that he didn't do jack shit. I could show my teacher my emails with AFK, but it's kinda inelegant. I don't actually need to do any of that for AFK to be doomed, as it's so much sweeter of a revenge if he gets demolished despite me seemingly helping him, instead of because me and the teacher ganged up on him. So I answer with a, oh yeah, we couldn't actually meet up a lot during the project because of the exams, and when AFK sent me his part it didn't properly interface with mine, so I had to rewrite everything for the project to function properly. Given that we had a specification for the API at the very start of the project, it clearly implies that AFK's supposed work was garbage. I know it, the teacher knows it. AFK doesn't know it, because I'm not sure he even looked at the description of the project. Yeah, AFK continues emboldened. It's kind of Zeal's fault too here, because this part couldn't properly communicate with mine. The teacher looks at him. You know what? Let's see who's at fault here. Let me pull up your grades on the exams. Mine is a 2020, his is a 320. I don't believe you've actually worked on this project at all, AFK. Could I see your work? Not a lot happens after. He and AFK go back and forth on why exactly he can't show him his code. It was on his computer and he uploaded it to me, but since I modified it, it wasn't there anymore, etc. At the very end of that, the teacher turns to me and says, I'm not gonna ask you if AFK did any work, because when I was your age, I wouldn't have pushed a classmate under the bus like that. But it's pretty clear what happened there. And I assure him that no, he did actually send me something, etc., before leaving. I can clearly see that the teacher doesn't believe a word of it. Outside of the class, AFK thanks me for trying to help him. No problem, I reply. We'll get some points on the test at least. And that's the last I ever see of AFK. A day or two later, I receive an email from my teacher, informing me that none of the tests passed the project that I had given him, and that consequently, the best grade he could give me on the project would be a 10/20. That's unfortunate but fair, I reply. To this day, I don't know how AFK did on his L3. I didn't exactly bother looking him up, but I'd be very surprised if he ended up with any points on that particular project. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 176. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do boop the like button before you go, and share the video with friends or family members. And treat yourself to a bowl of ramen, because that last story really got me wanting some noodles. Okay, no special shoutouts today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, when it comes to noodles, now we've got the fancy ones in the stores of course, but I think most of us will have more access to the ones you buy, like the packets of instant ramen. So, how do you eat it? Do you like to keep the soup base, or do you just use that to flavor your noodles, then drain it off? Generally speaking, this might be sacrilege to some, I prefer to drain it off because when I want noodles, I just want a bowl of noodles. But do let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.